Welcome to the Fog of Law section. Now in this one I'm going to touch on the legalities of what is ethical hacking, what is illegal hacking, where is that grey zone and everything in between, and what my interpretation of all that is. Now of course, because this is an internet course and is viewed through many countries throughout the world, yada yada yada, differences will apply throughout, but as a sort of a general approach here, I feel like I need to ethically at least advise what is going to be crossing that line. So, fog of law, is what I'm doing illegal? Today, essentially, the whole reason this happens is that there are people passing laws that do not understand how the technology works. There are clients providing authorization without understanding how the law works, and this is essentially a recipe for disaster. So privacy is a huge concern around this, and it's why laws exist, mainly. And the consequences of it can be seemingly defying logic that you may think or would not be legal. So case study. A police officer has been issued a work phone. During his employment, he had an affair, sending messages from his work phone. He used his work phone for personal conversations. The police department conducted reviews of the company-provided phone, discovered the affair, and fired the officer for his actions, because you can't have a police officer upholding the law when they're having an affair on the side. Now the question was, the officer claimed that the department had violated his privacy and took them to court. What do you think the outcome was? The police officer successfully won the case against the department, arguing the department had violated his privacy by accessing his private information on the company-provided phone. Now the key point here is just because you or your boss own a server, it does not mean that they legally have the rights to all the data on the server. Private information accessed even on a corporate network can be breaking these privacy laws. That's how the police officer successfully won his case. He argued it was his private information, even though it was on the company police department's phone. So beyond privacy, that's issue one, privacy, then there's authorization. Pretty plain and simple, if you're not authorized to do something, then you're not authorized to launch attacks at something. It's illegal. It would seem simple enough, but is it? Are the following illegal? Reading WikiLeaks, performing a port scan, accessing an unauthenticated publicly accessible web page, refreshing that web page a bunch of times really quickly, which causes the site to overload, access the web page and the database with business trade secrets is there, download that, realize what you've come across and contact them to let them know, copy a client list with copy supplied active account when the company knows that the employee leaves next week to start a job at a competitor, connect to a Wi-Fi hotspot that's open, unauthenticated, and browse the internet, use a friend's hotspot and push them over their data cap to, say, a $200 bill. Are they responsible for the data usage, or is the person that connected to the friend's hotspot? Now these are good examples of where you can begin to cross the lines and not. For example, reading WikiLeaks is out there in the public domain, but if you work for the CIA or department of whatever it was, they're not allowed to read it. Performing a port scan. It can be illegal, it cannot be illegal, it sort of depends on the volume of traffic that you're creating from it and where you're launching that port scan from. You might be performing a port scan of a web server that you have authorization to do, but your internet service provider might not give you that authorization to do it and slap you down before you even reach the target server. Looking at the fifth one down here, accessing a web page and seeing a database with business trade secrets, blah, blah, blah. This one has good intentions, right? You found a database on a website that they really don't want out there, sensitive information, so you contact them, let them know, and all is well, right? Sadly not. There is numerous cases out there where people have found stuff on websites, let the company know of the issue, and have then found themselves arrested for accessing the data a few weeks later. So the lines are really blurred, And it's important to understand that what you define as I am authorized to do something doesn't actually match what is likely going to be classified as authorized in the eyes of the law. So, generally surrounding computer abuse, the law does not judge on technicalities, it judges on authorization. Authorization is determined by intent or the mind of the owner. And now the real problem is that the mind of the owner is subjective. It can be left up to interpretation and in some way can be sort of changed down the road. And what was said in the beginning, maybe they've changed at the end, and because it's their content, the mind of the owner will play part here. Going with this, the approach is always clear why the Michigan man was charged for using Wi-Fi in the car. In this scenario, a man was chilling in his car. Local cafe had an unauthorized open access Wi-Fi to give cafe visitors internet access so that they could browse Facebook or whatever while they had their morning coffee. Now what this Michigan man did was he sat in his car and connected to the Wi-Fi from his laptop without ever entering the store. So it makes sense that this mind of the owner approach is here, in that the mind of the owner or the cafe was set up for visitors of the cafe or customers that have purchased a coffee. As this man hadn't entered the store, hadn't bought a coffee, hadn't done anything like that, it makes sense why he was able to be charged for using free Wi-Fi from his car. So how are you supposed to know the owner's intent, especially considering ignorance of the law is no excuse? So if you're in a park and suddenly free Wi-Fi appears, can you use it? Can I view information on the website if it's unauthenticated? So on and so forth. So let's return to the original question here. Is what I'm doing illegal? I've given a whole bunch of situations here that could go either way or have a different outcome to what you may think, but the question is what I'm doing illegal? And unfortunately, the answer is it depends. And it always depends because you can never know unless it's all your own system. And so that's what we're going to do in this lesson and the following courses. I'm giving you all of the content, the virtual machines, the tools, the attacks, everything. Nothing is leaving your local computer, so therefore you are authorizing yourself to attack your own stuff, so therefore it's okay. And as you progress down this road, as you delve into the world of ethical hacking, always, always, always practice your own against your own stuff. It's very important. Going back to the law bit, what you understand of the law versus what happens in reality, it will not follow logic because of the reasons we went through. It will break but technically approaches, but technically the man in the Michigan car only connected to a free Wi-Fi. He technically didn't do anything wrong. All he did was take advantage of what was around him, but the technicality approach won't apply. It will laugh at ignorance and just plain don't do it. Keep things to your local system and you won't have any issues.